Well, what do you know? We're back for another Hearthstone Cataclysm card review. Today we got a new legendary card for Rogue. You'll see here behind me, and a bunch of neutral cards, and I guess like one random priest card as well. But this tentacly buddy behind me is Isarath. This is a 5-mana 5/3 legendary. Battlecry, devour 2 random cards from the opponent's hand, then go dormant for 2 turns, then finally death rattle, return them. So a lot going on here. Basically kind of some hand disruption, some resource denial attached to a 5-mana 5/3 body that is not present on board for 2 turns, then does theoretically give the cards back to your opponent. Did Shadow Step die for Isarath here? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think this card is good enough to have killed Shadow Step in the core set, because I just don't really think this is very good. A little bit of hand disruption here and there, like, you know, we've seen some resource denial like that get played, sure. But number one, Rogue, maybe not really the best class for that. Typically, if you're trying to play a long game that's more about a resource denial, you kind of need to be in more of a control deck, a late game deck, to have room for this sort of card. You know, a deck that has its own game plan that's more aggressive or combo-y or whatever that Rogue tends to be, doesn't really have space for this because they're just doing their own thing. They need their cards to be dedicated to what they're doing, not about messing with the opponent so much. So, like, not necessarily the best fit for Rogue in that regard, but also just, like, speaking more generally, if this were in any class, I still think it'd be really hard to play, because you're just kind of passing an entire turn, spending 5 mana. You know, you're going to be basically hitting 2 cards out of 7 or 8 or something, and it's probably just going to be a little random garbage. Sometimes, yeah, occasionally, 1 in 5 games, 1 in 10 games, maybe you hit some big win condition or combo piece or something, but you're not going to want to play this card the other 9 times, and you're not going to know which is which. So are you going to be putting a bad card in your deck like 90% of the time for those very occasional steals? I don't think so. And it's just such a bad card because, you know, it's just doing nothing on board for 2 turns. Theoretically, you know, the death rattle is also going to go off sometimes, and that means they're going to get those cards back anyways. You just kind of stalled more than stole. So no matter how I look at this card, this just looks very bad to me. I actually don't really see any way this gets played in Rogue in particular. Even with Shadow Step, I'm not sure that it'd be that good. So this card just kind of leaves me baffled. I really don't see this one working much at all. So moving over to Priest, we got a new location with some of the most beautiful artwork I've ever seen in Hearthstone. That is freaking awesome. The way they were not scared to lean into the color palette on this one is amazing. I mean, like, palette's not the right word, but lean into the red. I mean, like, they didn't shy away from making this more monochromatic with all the red. That's really cool. Anyway, Ruby Sanctum is a 1-mana location, 3 durability. Your next healing effect this turn deals damage instead. So you know, we've got another one of these Akanai Soul Priest effects of old. You plop this down, just, you know, fill it in on turn 1 or whatever, give yourself something to do. Super easy to weave into a turn, and then hopefully you realize some advantage off of this later. You know, maybe there's some Circle of Healing style card that's an AoE heal where you can use this to really juice some kind of AoE effect, turning it into removal. Maybe it's just like single target damage, you know, flash heal. There's that I think 2-drop that deals its health as damage, which we've got like health buff stuff. I think that can target anybody, right? Well, now I have to check that. I just assumed that, and now I don't know for sure. I think that can target enemies, but we're gonna check real quick just to be sure, so that I'm not insane. Yeah, Amber Priestess. Yeah, it does restore health to a character, not a friendly character, equal to this minion's health. So you could buff this up to like 10 health in hand and use it as a pyroblast on your opponent's face. This is healing effect, does not say like spells or anything. So definitely some possibilities for this to turn into a really powerful sort of effect. So I think Ruby Sanctum actually looks quite good for a 1-cost card. Really strong. So moving into the neutral set of stuff here, we have the Faceless Replicator, a 3-mana 3/3 elusive with Death Rattle. Transform the minion that killed this into a faceless replicator. So we've had this sort of card before. It creates these little like chains of transformations, and the idea here is elusive, so maybe your opponent has to use minions to kill it instead of spells. That's true for single target spells, but not AoEs. Like, it can still easily get cleaned up in an AoE. The other side of this, though, is like, it's not always a good thing necessarily to like transform your opponent's minion into an elusive 3/3 that then transforms your future minions. There's actually some inherent risk baked into this, and also could like theoretically kind of heal or buff stuff too sometimes, depending on the trade status. So it's like, I just like, why are you running this, right? There's no deck or game plan or reason. The disruption's not reliable or good. It's risky. It's just like, there's just no reason to play this card, right? It might be funny sometimes, randomly generated or whatever. It's fine that it exists. It's just not going to go in anybody's deck ever. Moving on here to the Gemstone Hoarder. This is a 3-mana 3/4 with Battlecry. Choose a card in your hand to discard. So that has the new hand targeting tech, where you actually do specifically get to pick which card gets discarded. And then Death Rattle, get it back. It costs 1 less. So here, you could have a couple of options, right? A couple routes for this card. Number one is like any kind of discard deck is, of course, great for this. Discard Warlock support, etc. would be nuts here, because sometimes you have like the specific thing you're looking to discard because it's a really high payoff. Silverware golems or whatever of old, right? Just target your Silverware golem in hand and you always hit Silverware golem. Absolutely perfect. Also probably insane in wild format. I've heard like discard Warlock's really, really good in wild format. So probably nuts, because then you're actually getting that card back very often, and then you get to potentially just do it again with another discard effect. The other way to use this is maybe just like as a discount on a big thing. You got like a 10 cost card in hand, you want to feel a little cheaper, you could play a Gemstone Hoarder and choose that one and discard it. You'd kind of be showing your opponent, you would expose yourself to a little risk if this got silenced or transformed, but that would be pretty minimal risk. But then you get your 10 cost card back at 9, do it twice, it's at 8, etc. I don't really think this makes the cut in most decks for that. There's usually just better, more efficient ways to cheat things out, discount things. A kind of 3 cost coin or whatever, right? It doesn't really feel that good, but it is on a 3/4 body, so at the same time it's not like the biggest sacrifice either. Maybe a big deck could play with this one a little bit. I just think that's not really the angle. That said, I have to give this card some respect and potential, just because we don't know if it's going to happen, but if they print discard support in Warlock in Standard, this becomes a very viable option immediately. It's one of those where it's like, we have to score this based on its potential. Will that be satisfied? No idea. But as soon as that happens, this card becomes probably a very, very good discard Warlock card, and therefore has some real high upside. Okay, moving on to Sheltered Survivor. This is a 2-mana 2/3 neutral Battlecry. Choose a card in your hand to shuffle it into your deck, and then you draw a card. So under normal circumstances, this is just kind of you trading a card in, literally like, tradable, I guess, cycling into something else, which, in theory, you could kind of like fix some curve problems or something. You got a 9-drop in hand you don't need, you trade it in trying to hit a 3-drop to fulfill your curve. Or, you have a specific win condition card you're really looking for, and it's not that card in hand. Trade something garbage in, try to find your awesome stuff, right? But that's just kind of worse card draw. I'd rather just have more things in hand and keep drawing cards. And we have so much cheap, efficient card draw. There's no way this competes. Just give me more total resources. I don't want to have to cycle them out. Now, that said, this card does have one potential small use case, I think, which is like a deck that very specifically needs something to be in the deck. So you have a card that says like, summon the highest cost minion from your deck or whatever, and you need to make sure that your highest cost minion that you want to summon is in deck. You could use your Sheltered Survivor to make sure that thing stays tucked away in the deck for whatever combo or setup or something, right? So like kind of maybe sort of some upside there. Also, technically, we do have some cards like we saw that one yesterday, the Saboteur. It's putting bad garbage in your hand. It's gonna be a way to get rid of that garbage. That's super, super unlikely to ever actually happen. So that is not really a consideration for me. I'm giving this just the slightest bump for, though, those decks that do have to have something in deck. It's rare. It's unlikely to actually be great. I don't think it'll happen, but like technically could be an angle for this card, where otherwise I think this one is really, really bad. Next up here is the Frostbitten Imp, a 2-mana 5/3 demon with Battle Cry, freeze this. So the notion here is that you'd get a really nice, aggressively statted 2-drop, but if you want to attack with it, it does come on a delay, and that's really the problem, right? Is the freeze here just holds this one back way too much, because 3 health is not enough that this is ever really going to live into the point where it would actually get to attack. And even if it did, the upside on the attack here frankly isn't really all that good. Like, you know, maybe 2 extra attack or something over a regular 2-drop, that's fine, but nothing crazy and not worth the delay and the risk for this card. Is just way too easily cleaned up. You could maybe talk about something like a silence deck. We had silence pre stuff in the past, but again, 3 health is just not enough to build into for that sort of deck. So even though you could remove the freeze immediately, still kind of sucks. And do remember, this is not like ready to attack on turn 3. It is frozen into your turn 3. Freeze removes the minion's next possible attack, and since it can't attack on turn 2 anyway, it's still frozen on turn 3, just in case there were questions about how this one works. So you really are missing your attack. This would not be attacking essentially until turn 4. That's actually crazy when you think about it that way, right? So just like, how does this ever get played? It doesn't. It's that simple. All right, next up here is the Selfless Protector. Very cute art. This is a 2-mana 2/6 taunt, takes 1 extra damage from all sources. So I guess kind of thinking about this, the health sort of ranges from like 3 to 5, depending on the effective trade. Like, you know, if a 5 attack minion hits this, it dies. So that's kind of like 5 health, right? But if 3 1 attack minions hit this, then that's kind of like having 3 health, right? So it's kind of a 2/3/2/4, I guess, is possible, and 2/5 sort of, if you think about it, which I don't think is like good enough, right? It's kind of fine, you know, but no deck's gonna make room for this. There's no reason to like put this in your deck. Maybe it's fine little stall in arena or something, right? You know, randomly summoned, sometimes this will create interesting moments, but as far as a playable card, it's just not going to get played for any reason. All right, next up here is the Twisted Monstrosity, a 5-mana 6/5 beast with Elusive and Taunt, and then it reads, each turn this is in your hand, swap between 2 random bonus effects. So it starts, I guess, with Elusive and Taunt, and then that can swap into the other bonus effect keywords, you know, Rush, Lifesteal, Divine Shield, is Poisonous one of them, I think. You guys know the ones. You know, there's some combinations where this actually looks like a kind of playable card. You know, sometimes Rush and Lifesteal might feel decent for certain decks. Sometimes Elusive Taunt actually might feel kind of okay as well. There are a lot of other combinations, though, where it's going to feel like I just did not need this, and I absolutely do not want to spend 5 mana on this, and that's really going to be the hesitation for this one, is like, well, I just can't afford to run this in my deck because I don't know what I'm getting out of it, and sometimes I'm going to need specific results that this just doesn't provide, and it's just way too inexpensive of a card for that at 5. I don't think any beast synergies really line this up either. I kind of thought this looked like a dragon, but it's, I don't know, a monstrosity, some kind of crazy mutant beast, I guess, bat creature, I'm not sure, but anyway, no dragon synergies because it's not a dragon, so I just don't really see how this makes the cut. Next up here is the Warlock. This is a 2-mana 1/1 Murloc with Battle Cry. Your next Murloc that costs 3 or less costs health instead of mana. And this really does feel like it's kind of combining Warlock, like the class, you know, sacrificing health, with Murloc, cheesing Murlocs. Could you get a Murloc Warlock, or a Warlock, as we would call it, or a Murloc, alternatively? I don't think a card like this would be enough to fuse that together, some kind of like Pain, you know, Murloc, Warlock thing. This doesn't feel good enough to me. I like the idea of being able to cheat out a nice Murloc, right? But because this, of course, has the cost ceiling fixed here, it's 3 or less, you're never going to be able to cheat anything crazy impressive out of this. And then ultimately, you're kind of paying 2 mana for a really bad card. Like, it's just a 1/1 in its own right. So although you're cheating some mana, it doesn't really feel like you're cheating that much, because you played a 2-mana 1/1 to cheat it, and that really sucks. So like, I don't think Murloc Paladin, for instance, sees this and goes, oh yeah, I absolutely need this to cheese more Murlocs out faster. It's sort of a little bit of help, but not really. They wouldn't mind necessarily sacrificing the health. I just don't know how helpful this is, because again, it's just 2 mana for a 1/1. So in other words, you know, I'm not going to totally write it off because Murlocs can swarm. They can be aggressive. The health is really not a punish for those kinds of decks. But I don't see Murloc Paladin coming back, and I don't think we're going to get another great Murloc deck. I don't see the pain angle really coming in to be a bonus as opposed to, you know, just kind of a neutral or downside. So in essence, I just don't think this one pushes anything enough to really to get there in a competitive deck. So then our final card here is the Survivalist. This is a 9-mana 6/6, and it has immune while you control no other minions. So this kind of like sticky, annoying 6/6 that can sort of chill and maybe be hard for the opponent to deal with. Although, honestly, it's not that hard to deal. You know, there's like rush minions everywhere. There's still lots of like general hard removal and AoEs and stuff that could kind of clean this up. Well, I mean, I guess not a damage-based AoE, but, you know, like brawl-style cards, whatever, Twisting Nether, hard removal like that can clean this up. So it's like immune doesn't mean alive forever. It just means a little more annoying to deal with, right? And 9 mana is just an insane cost for that. Like, no one's going to want to spend 9 mana for just a 6/6, because even if it does survive, it's not really like that threatening, or, you know, it's not highly lethal. Maybe it's a buff body, but, you know, there's lots of ways to do that. It's not great at like trading. Like, yes, it survives trades, but it's only 6/6 and it doesn't trade across multiple. So like, what are you doing with it once it's alive? What purpose does it serve? I think none. I don't know. Maybe this is intriguing in Arena, but I feel like even their 9 mana seems like way too prohibitively high. So I just don't really see the use case for Survivalist at all. Kind of a cool like thematic card, but you know, sometimes randomly summoned maybe makes an impact, but just not a card people are putting in decks. So all that said, let's go ahead and rate these cards from 1 to 5 stars. Isarath is a 2-star card. Ruby Sanctum is a 4-star card. Faceless Replicator is a 1-star card. Gemstone Hoarder is a 4-star card. Sheltered Survivor is a 2-star card. Frostbitten Imp is a 1-star card. Selfless Protector is a 1-star card. Twisted Monstrosity is a 2-star card. Warlock is a 2-star card. Survivalist is a 1-star card. Yeah, there you go. Unfortunately, a lot of bad cards in this video. That's mostly because it's just like a lot of neutral cards that are clearly not designed to be played in like real competitive decks. That's fine. Those exist, you know, they need to exist. No hate there. Sadly, though, we did get a legendary I also think is just not very strong. I think it's going to be really, really hard to support this card well. You know, there were eras in Hearthstone where this card would probably be more impactful when resources mattered more. But nowadays, there's just so much stuff. Everybody has a million cards all the time, and they draw a million cards, and they generate a million cards. 2 cards of resource advantage, it's just not meaningful these days, you know? I just don't think it does enough, and it's so slow in the process. So ultimately, yeah, I just don't think this one gets there. Curious if anybody disagrees. I mean, it could be fun to mess with people and troll people or whatever, but I just don't see it happening as far as real decks running this one. So share those thoughts down below. Thanks again, as always, for watching, and until next time, game on.